This morning, we're going to talk about the theme that comes from the book of Habakkuk, that the righteous will live by faith. What's interesting about this phrase as we talk about getting into the heart, into the treasures of Jesus' heart, what's interesting about this phrase is that this is the theme of 3 New Testament books. 3 letters that are sent to churches that are struggling for different reasons. In Romans chapter 1, verse 17, Paul reminds the church in Rome that the righteous shall live by faith because they're not living righteously. They're sinning that their grace may increase. And so Paul says to them, hey, that's not what faith is about. Faith is about looking more and being more like Jesus every day because he alone is righteous. And you can only be that way because of faith. And he expounds upon that in amazing ways. In Galatians chapter 3, verse 23, Paul tells them that the righteous shall live by faith because they have been told that they have to live according to every single dot and letter of the law, that they should become Jewish. And Paul says, that's not what it's about, Galatians. It's about being like Jesus, living by faith and being righteous. And then to the Hebrews, the many churches that receive the letters of Hebrews, the writer in chapter 10, I think it's verse 38, says that the righteous shall live by faith and that they don't slip back. And he reminds them that you need to stay strong in the midst of adversity. When everything is crumbling around you, when the walls don't look like they're going to support, when it's hard to have faith, don't shrink back. Have faith. I think the writer of Hebrews gets it best as he responds into that because he deals with exactly what Habakkuk is talking about, what Habakkuk deals with. By the way, Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 4 is where this main verse comes from, that the righteous shall live by faith. The New Testament writers are quoting from him as they write this. And Habakkuk is a little known book of the Bible, of the Old Testament. Not very well known. It's only 3 chapters long. And most of it is a complaint. Most of it is a discussion from Habakkuk to God, where Habakkuk says things like this. O Lord, how long shall I cry for help, and you will not hear, or cry for you violence, and you will not save? Why do you make me see iniquity? And why do you idly look at those that are doing wrong? Destruction and violence are before me. Strife and contention arise. So the law is paralyzed, and justice never goes forth. For the wicked surround the righteous, so justice goes forth perverted. Habakkuk looks at the world around him, and then he talks to God and says, God, why are you letting this stuff happen? He sounds a whole lot like David here. David, in one of his imprecatory psalms, he cries out to God and says, God, why do you let the wicked prosper and the righteous suffer? And Habakkuk does the same, and he looks and says, God, why are you letting the wicked be able to do wicked things? Where is your judgment? Where is your justice and your mercy? Where are you? What's interesting is God's response to Habakkuk. And he says, look among the nations and see, wonder and be astounded, for I am doing a work in your days that you would not believe, even if you were told. God gives him this hope, speaks into him a message that I'm going to do stuff. I'm going to move, and it's going to be amazing. But as we continue to read, as Habakkuk continues to get this message from God, as Habakkuk cries out and says, God, what's going on? Why are you letting the wicked endure? He gets a message, and God says, don't worry about it. Trust me. I'm going to show you something that's amazing. And then God tells him this right after he says that. For behold, I am rising up the Chaldeans, the Babylonians, that bitter and hasty nation, who march through the breadth of the earth to seize dwellings not their own. They are dreaded and fearsome. Their justice and dignity go forth from themselves. Their horses are swifter than leopards, more fierce than the evening wolves. Their horsemen press proudly on. Their horsemen come from afar. They fly like an eagle, swift to devour. They all come for violence, all their faces forward. They gather captives like sand. At kings they scoff, and at rulers they laugh. They laugh at every fortress, and they pile up earth and take it. Then they sweep by like the wind and go on, guilty men whose own might is their own God. God responds to them and says, look, I'm going to do something. Look among the nations and see, wonder and be astounded, for I am doing a work in your days that you would not believe if you were told, the Babylonians are coming. They will be my judgment upon the wicked that are around you. Well, I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like a faithful situation to live in. If the righteous should live by faith, really, what is this faith doing for Habakkuk and the people of Israel? If the Babylonians are going to come and be the judgment of everything, how is this going to be a solution? What is this all about? I love that God responds to Habakkuk again, and I love this conversation that we get to be in the midst of. Habakkuk responds to God and says, "Are you not from everlasting, O Lord, my God, my Holy One? We shall not die. O Lord, you have ordained them as judgment, and you, O Rock, have established them for reproof. You who are purer eyes than to see evil and cannot look at wrong, why do you idly look at traitors and remain silent when the wicked swallows things up?" And then God responds to Habakkuk in chapter 2, verses 3 through 4. "And the Lord answered me, write the vision, make it plain on tablets, so that he may run who reads it. For still the vision awaits its appointed time. It hastens to the end, it will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come, it will not delay. Behold, his soul is puffed up, it is not upright within him, but the righteous shall live by faith." Habakkuk gets a response from God that ends up speaking a message into our very lives today. God tells Habakkuk that, do not worry about what's going on in this world, because I am God and you should trust me. Have faith in me. Even when it seems like things are crumbling around you, it's going to be all right. When the Babylonians come, the righteous will live by faith. And God proves it. We have stories like Daniel, and we see how amazingly blessed Daniel is in his life because of his faith. When the Persians come after the Babylonians, God will be faithful to those who are faithful to him. And he proves it. You have Esther becoming queen with Xerxes and being a blessing. You have books like Nehemiah and Ezra where God does amazing things in the people that are righteous, that live faithful lives in God and trust in him. And God proves it. But let's be honest. Sometimes it's hard to look at those stories and just go, wow, God, the righteous really lived by faith. And God did that for so-and-so people. Well, will God really do that for us all? And the question begs that we have to ask is that what happened to Jesus' faith, even when the walls were crumbling around him? Because the truth is, that's who we follow, that's who we are. It's the essence of everything that we are about life, is Jesus Christ. And if the righteous shall live by faith, why does the story of Habakkuk even matter? I wonder at Jesus' life as he studies the Old Testament and as he memorizes it, because we know clearly he's got it memorized, how many times Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 4 comes up in his life. I remember when Jesus was young and we hear the story about how his family has to flee to Egypt because the king is trying to kill him, killing all the children in the area of Bethlehem. So they flee. I would imagine that Jesus was ridiculed by his brothers as he grew up and wondered how important it was that Habakkuk was reminded by God that the righteous shall live by faith. As Jesus begins in his ministry, he goes into the desert for 40 days and 40 nights and fasts, is incredibly hungry, is incredibly at the end of his wits. How much Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 4 matters for him, how the righteous shall live by faith, especially as Satan says, follow me. Just worship me and I'll give you everything that you see. Talk to the stone and tell it to become a loaf of bread and it will. And takes him up on the high place and says, I'll make you king of everything. But instead, Jesus remembers Habakkuk 2 verse 4, I firmly believe, and says this, away with you, Satan, for it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only you shall serve. Then the devil left him, and behold, angels came to Jesus and ministered to him. The righteous shall live by faith. I wonder about Jesus' life as he grows up in his town and as he goes back to minister there and the things that he has said to him. How people said, isn't this the carpenter's son who grew up among us? Who is this guy really? And Jesus' response is, a prophet is honored everywhere except in his own hometown and among his own family. And so he only did a few miracles there because of their unbelief. I wonder how important when Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 4 was to Jesus when his very own family came and said, come out and eat with us. Get away from this message, this preaching that you're doing, and eat with us. And when they find out he doesn't come, they say, he must be crazy. The righteous shall live by faith, even as the walls are crumbling down. What a hard, difficult message it is for us. When the storms are around us, when the earth is shaking, when there's fire eating up our crops. How do we live into Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 4? When there's illness in our family. How does the righteous truly live by faith? Think about Jesus in the garden and how important Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 4 must have been to him. As he's there crying and saying, Lord, if it be your will that this cup may pass from me, but not my will, but yours be done. The righteous shall live by faith. And then as they beat him, as they spit on him, as he was arrested for his goodness, for the great things he was doing, for healing people, for raising Lazarus from the dead. How Peter mentions this and makes sure to let us know about this, how Jesus he suffered because of his righteousness, because of his goodness. I wonder how much Habakkuk 2 verse 4 meant to him. The righteous shall live by faith, when he could have called 10,000 angels. Easily. He could have been taken from this moment when the pain and suffering was at its most, when he was bearing the iniquity of us all, the punishment for our sins. How important it is that the righteous shall live by faith. When things crumble around us, when the storms are there, when the fire is burning, when the earth is shaking, are we like Habakkuk in his first couple of complaints? Go, God, what are you doing? Why are you letting the wicked prosper and the righteous suffer? God, show me the right way. And every time God responds and says, don't worry, I am about to show you the way. It's going to happen in time. My one and only Son's going to come and prove to you that the righteous can live by faith and that it matters. What are we going to do when things crumble around us, when it gets hard? How are we going to live into Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 4? Well, I think it's important that we understand that Habakkuk's story ends with him saying we should worship God with all that we are. How the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth be silent before him. That's actually the verse that Habakkuk ends with in chapter 3 at the end of it. The Lord is in his temple. Let all the earth be silent before him. Well, we happen to know something that Habakkuk only got maybe a glimpse of. How the righteous shall live by faith. We know that that faith actually leads us towards life. Regardless if there's death, if there's fire, if there's thunder and storms in the midst of us, that righteousness, faith leads to life. And it is this. The truth of the resurrection. Jesus' life would have tested anybody's faith. From the very beginning of his life till the end, people were against him because of his goodness, because of who he was, the Son of God. But yet he continued to live by faith and show us what righteousness truly is. And it's because Jesus had hope of the truth that God is just, that God will take care of the wicked, that God will bless the righteous, and that things will be right in the kingdom of God. And he rose again on that third day with all power in his hand. How he rose and showed us that death, it doesn't matter. It's defeated. Even though we should die in the flesh, we're not going to die spiritually because he rose again on that third day. The righteous shall live by faith because even if the walls crumble down, the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth be silent before it. You are the temple of God. The church body, the people of God, He has decided in Jesus Christ to fill us with His Spirit and let us be the temple. Let us be the physical building presence in the midst of the world. That even in the midst of the crumbling, that the righteous shall live by faith, and we have hope. We have hope of the resurrection. We have hope that the cross was not the end of Jesus, but just the beginning of the incredible life that He gave for us. The righteous shall live by faith because we have hope. We go back to Habakkuk and look at Habakkuk and say, hey, if we could go back in time, we're going to share with you this amazing message that God's own Son is going to live in the midst of the wickedness and live by faith. And He's going to conquer it, and there will be hope, even as the walls are crumbling. The writer of Hebrews says it like this, but my righteous one shall live by faith, and if he shrink back, my soul hath no pleasure in him. We are not of those who shrink back and are destroyed, but we are of those who believe and are saved. Brothers and sisters in Christ, it's hard to be faithful. It's hard to live in this world. Jesus showed us that. Let's just be honest about it. The things that we're struggling with, the cancers that invade our body, the illnesses that we have, how our families treat us sometimes, the struggles that husbands and wives have sometimes, the struggles that parents and children have sometimes, the struggles that teachers have with their students, the struggles that bosses have with their workers, all this stuff that's going on around us is difficult. There are walls that appear to be crumbling around us all the time, and it is hard. How do we live into that? Do we let our faith falter? Do we quit trusting? Do we shrink back and step back as the rest of the world wants us to and say, oh, look, there's those people that claim that they follow Jesus, but they're just hypocrites. Just watch them. They're going to fail. They say that you shouldn't do this, and if you just watch them, they're going to do it. They might slip a bad word out. You might catch them in a lie. Or there might be some relationship struggles and some issues that are breaking families apart. And the world is saying to us, shrink back. Stay back within yourself. Keep away. Don't tell us how we should live our lives. Don't say that the righteous shall live by faith, because it doesn't look like it's working. Are we going to be those that shrink back and say, oh, you know what? I think you're right. We have been hypocrites. We say that we follow Jesus and we don't look like Him all the time. Are we going to be those that step up and say, you know what? I have been a hypocrite. I love the fact that Jesus died for my sins and that I can only be made righteous by His faithfulness. I'm not going to shrink back because Jesus is Lord, and the righteous will live by faith. And I will step up even though the walls are crumbling down, because I recognize the truth that God is building His kingdom here. And His kingdom will come. And I also recognize another truth. His Son told us very clearly, I'm coming back. I don't know the day or the hour. I'll come like a thief in the night, but I am coming back. God the Father knows when I'll be back. And when I come, there's a place for you. In my Father's household are many rooms. And I will come to take you there. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father but by me. Have faith in me. Trust me, I'm God's one and only Son who came for you. The righteous shall live by faith. Church, let's not be those who shrink back. When somebody calls us out for our hypocrisy, own up to our hypocrisy. Recognize the truth that we fail, that we need Jesus. Let's step up and declare the truth that we need Jesus with every single bit of our being and our essence. That we cannot be saved, that we cannot live, that we can't be righteous without Jesus. The righteous shall live by faith. We're about to sing a song that I learned, I think Jimmy was the one that brought it to us, but a song that we've learned about 3 years ago now, maybe 4? Okay, called Shout to the North. And one of the things that I love about this song is that it is a song calling out the righteous to live by faith. And, ladies, let the men sing the first part of the song, the first set of lyrics, the first stanza, whatever it's called. Sing the chorus all together. And men, at the second verse, there it is, second verse, let the ladies sing. But here's something that's really important about this song that we sing together. We're calling each other out to live by faith. We're also calling ourselves out to live by faith. Men of faith, rise up and sing to our great and glorious King. Men of faith, step up and live by faith. I encourage you, church, if you believe this song, if you believe that the righteous shall live by faith, even if you don't think that you sing very well and you tend to be quiet, sing this song bravely, courageously. Because this is a song where we declare that the righteous shall live by faith. This is a song where we declare that we trust that even when the walls are crumbling down, when it doesn't look like things are okay, that Jesus makes things okay. Because he will make us righteous, for he is faithful. Can you go to the second verse with the ladies part? I don't sing this part very often, so I don't have it memorized, but it's beautiful. Rise up, women of the truth, stand and sing to broken hearts, who can know the healing power of our awesome King of love. Ladies, when you sing that, even if you don't think you sing well, sing it with courage. Because the righteous shall live by faith. And Jesus makes it possible for us to sing to our awesome King of love. Because even when the walls are crumbling, even when it doesn't look like a nation's going to survive because the Chaldeans are coming, God's got a plan. And God's plan is Jesus. Let's live by faith.